When he awoke, he felt absolutely terrible. Everything was painful, even his toes ached. He was certain that if he had nerves in his hair, they would be hurting as well. The pain was particularly intense around his chest. Naruto let out a quiet hiss as his muscles clenched uncomfortably. Turning his head to the side, what happened to him? Squinting, he tried to take in as much of his surroundings as the darkness would allow. He was admitted to the hospital. It was late at night. The moon and the gaps in the door to the hallway provided the only light in the room. He hadn't woken up in a hospital in a long time. He'd only been in one before, when he was beaten up by a drunk. The drunk guy had approached him shortly after leaving Ikaraku's ramen stall one night. He was slurring heavily, but Naruto understood what he was saying, at least the majority of it. It was difficult to dislike someone who kept crying about his dead family while beating you. Maybe it was the tears, but he couldn't help but feel sorry for the old man. He had not filed any charges. Naruto gazed out the window at the night sky. There was no cloud cover. There are only the stars and the moon. It was lovely. A stark contrast to the sky on the night he and Sasuke fought in the Valley of the End, as the phantom pains of Sasuke's Chidori filled his chest. He frowned and bit his lower lip. He was aware that he had been mortally wounded during the fight. How long had he been unconscious, even though it was the middle of the night? Surely there was a nurse nearby? Right. He had to get up. As he tried to sit up, he let out a grunt. Something was squeezing him. What in the world was it? They were 9 in number. He had overlooked them because they were fluffy and soft. He only noticed them when they were pressing down on him. Fortunately, they did not restrain him too tightly. His body was already in pain. Naruto groaned quietly as he tilted his head up, blinking. He had to squint his eyes to figure out who was sleeping next to him. The 2 perked fox ears on her head and her gleaming silky red hair were the first telltale sign. He should have known because it was Kyumi. With her 9 tails and all, who could have held him down? Kyumi appeared completely calm in the dim light of his hospital room, as if he had a guardian angel watching over him while he slept. Except instead of wings, she had fox tails and fox ears. She was also much cuter than an angel. As he tried to sit up against the wall, he let out another grunt. He looked at her face this time, noting the slight tension in Kyumi's brow as she frowned in her sleep. She even let out a quiet groan of dissatisfaction. She has the potential to be adorable at times. The majority of the time, almost every time, she did, on occasion, act like a fox. A cute little fox cub, always hungry for his undivided attention. How long had she slept next to him? Was she there the whole time he was unconscious? The sound of footsteps jolted him out of his reverie. His ears twitched as he heard them. Whoever was walking outside was wearing high heels and had a very important gait. Who could it possibly be? Naruto raised an eyebrow as the footsteps came to a halt right outside his door. Was it a nurse who came to check on him? When the door opened, there was blonde hair, a face, and the top half of a dark green blouse. Tsunade was the name. She fixed her gaze on him. He returned her gaze. Hey, Naruto said softly, his voice a little hoarse, as he slowly raised a hand to wave at her. Hey, Naruto, Tsunade said quietly as she swallowed, her gaze shifting from Naruto to Kyumi. Are you in any pain? No, just what you'd expect from almost dying. He shook his head. Pain is still pain. Why so anxious? Tsunade, said Naruto, quirking his brow at Tsunade's frown. Tsunade responded. The 9-tailed fox told me not to bother you, or else she would. Would she? She said, and I quote, If you bother me or my companion, I will tear off your skin so it doesn't matter how many wrinkles you have. Tsunade cleared her throat as quietly as she could. Aish, that sounds exactly like her. Naruto shuddered, eliciting a quiet mew from Kyumi. Right, Tsunade said, her voice trailing off as she began to walk away. Are you going to just leave me here? She returned his gaze. Yes. Then she shut the door and walked away, leaving him alone with Kyumi. Naruto looked down at Kyumi after a brief moment of staring at the door. Despite how loud he was, she was still sleeping peacefully. Kyumi's lips had parted during his conversation with Tsunade, and there was now just a tiny trail of drool pooling beneath her chin. To be honest, she was a hopeless case. His helpless cause. He reached over and patted Kyuubi's head with his hand raised. Her ears twitched immediately in response to his touch, and she let out a quiet mew. He was becoming addicted to patting her on the head. Her hair was always soft and silky, and her ears were always happy. Kyumi purred. Her lips curved upward into a dreamy smile. He also liked the sound she made. She reminded me of a baby fox in some ways. She adored being cared for, praised, and nurtured. Plus, she was always envious when he was focused on someone else. Sure, she'd act mean and tough, but the moment he even mentioned patting her head or rubbing her tummy, she'd melt. Naruto, moaned Kyumi quietly. her head instinctively pushing up against Naruto's hand as he ran his fingers through her hair. Naruto's small vocal reaction only encouraged him to keep going. MHM. Yes, please, Naruto, behind the ears. Kiyomi, said Naruto, quirking his brow, before she looked up at him. Her eyes fluttered open and the corner of her lip curled upward into a smirk. In the flesh, Kiyomi replied before winking. Well, not literally, because I'm made of chakra. Naruto held back a chuckle because it would hurt like hell if he laughed right now. Instead, he smiled, causing her smirk to soften into a smile. They exchanged a brief smile before Kiyomi inched her way up and tightly embraced him, but not too tightly, just enough to express herself. God, I was so damned worried about you. Kiyomi admitted, pressing her face into the crook of his neck. Are you worried about me? A monkey. You're not a monkey. Not anymore. She shook her head, her nose tickling him slightly. Oh, said Naruto. His brow furrowed. What am I now? Kiyomi looked up at him, her blue-gray eyes glistening slightly as they reflected the moonlight. You're my companion, one of my precious people. Kiyomi replied timidly, her cheeks flushed with embarrassment. You're one of my precious people. Kiyomi, Naruto said with a smile. He then reached forward and brushed a few stray hairs away from her face, revealing her feminine brows and adorable forehead. He then trailed his hand down to cup her cheek. Even now, Kiyomi said slowly, looking down at his hand, I'm still worried about you. I didn't think you'd wake up. Why didn't you think I'd wake up? Said Naruto, quirking his brow. I had to do something to save you, something I'd never done before. Kiyomi admitted as she crawled even closer to him. I don't know what's going to happen to you in the long run, but for now, you're safe. You're safe with me. So, what did you do to me? Asked Naruto, tilting his head to the side as he asked. I had to infuse your body with my chakra, so now you're a hybrid, a mix of human and tailed beast. Half of your body is made up of my chakra and the other half is what was originally you. Kiyomi replied, her words causing Naruto's eyes to widen. So, will I just be a hybrid like this forever and until I die? Well, at first, all my chakra did was heal your lung and chest, and your body. My chakra had no mind to control it, so what it did was essentially devour your cells to make room for itself. Kiyomi explained with a frown. So, will I vanish into a cloud of red chakra when all my cells are eaten? Worried Naruto. His brow furrowed slightly. No, your soul will remain intact, and over time, it will become the new mind for my chakra. Kiyomi said, shaking her head. So I'll end up being entirely made of chakra like you. I believe, she said, nodding. As so, does that mean I'm immortal? Asked Naruto, his voice rising slightly near the end of his sentence. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know. Honestly, I'm a bit mixed here. Naruto shrugged. How so? I mean, I get to spend forever with you now. I think that's fantastic. Naruto replied with a nod, prompting Kiyomi to smile in relief. But I think it's unfair that I get to live forever, not everyone else. Plus, if I ever became Hokage now, I'd be the last Hokage ever because I wouldn't be able to die. All the Hokages have always worked their hardest to get to where they were without needing the help of others. He sighed. Naruto, Kiyomi said softly as she stroked his cheek. You can't always rely on yourself. You can't help others unless you let others help you. That has to be the kindest and wisest thing I have ever heard you say. Naruto said quietly, I can be wise. You know, I just try not to because I'm afraid it won't get through that thick skull of yours. Kiyomi puffed out her cheeks. So, how did you infuse your chakra into me? Naruto inquired, causing Kiyomi's cheeks to flush slightly. Well, Kiyomi murmured quietly. You? Inquired Naruto. His brow furrowed. I had to give you the kiss of life, Kiyomi replied, her blush spreading to her ears as she forced the words out. He gave her a blank stare and said, So, you kissed me to instill chakra in me. Don't be so casual, Kiyomi replied, stuttering slightly as she slapped him on the arm. Why? Because it's humiliating, Kiyomi replied. I mean, I guess it's kind of embarrassing, Naruto replied, giving her a sympathetic smile. I never thought it would take almost dying to get a kiss out of you, he snorted before looking into her eyes. Idiot. Kiyomi blushed as she smacked him again. You just woke up from a coma and the only thing you care about is that I kissed you. I'm all right now. I don't have much to worry about. Naruto shrugged. Though I do want to get out of this hospital gown. Perhaps I should brush my teeth and take a shower. Oh, would you like to take a shower? There's one in the restroom. They have showers in hospital bathrooms, said Naruto, quirking his brow. I mean, it's for the staff. Kiyomi shrugged. Oh, all right then. Naruto responded. Here, allow me to assist you. Okay, all right. Easy. Make an effort not to tense up too much. Your muscles are still adjusting to the stress of my chakra coursing through them. Got it. Well, please try not to step on my tails. Sorry, he shuffled slightly. It's just a little dim in here. Don't worry, the hallway is bright outside, so just follow me, Kyumi said as she looped her arm beneath Naruto's shoulder. The trip to the restroom was brief, as it was only a few steps down the hall. Fortunately, they encountered no nurses. Otherwise, security would have been summoned immediately, as Kyumi had failed to conceal her ears and tails. The hospital was eerily quiet at night. He was lucky to have Kyumi to lean on. Naruto entered the restroom and immediately noticed the shower in the corner, which had curtains around it and appeared to be only big enough for one person. Naruto, on the other hand, had a sneaking suspicion that he would have to share the shower. Naruto noticed a subtle glint in Kyumi's eye, which confirmed his suspicion. Do you want to? Can we share the shower? How thoughtful of you. Of course, Kyumi replied quickly, snickering. Right, Naruto said with a nod, but there isn't much room, so, unless you don't mind some touching, I'll be fine. Thank you very much, Kyumi retorted as she began to undress. Eep, Naruto exclaimed as he turned around, only to discover that there was a mirror behind him and that he could see Kyumi's strip anyway. Despite this, it was not the sight of Kyumi's dreamy body that caused him to widen his eyes, but rather his own reflection. Were those fox ears on his head? Where had his regular ears gone? Why was his hair now tinted red? His hair was now the same shade of red as Kyumi's hair. Did his whiskers return? Was this all a result of the chakra Kyumi infused into him? He opened his mouth as he limped over to the mirror. He'd even grown fangs like Kyumi. How could he have missed them earlier? He returned his gaze to Kyumi, noting the frown on her face. I apologize if you don't like the changes. I didn't expect them to happen, Kyumi apologized as she bowed her head, her ears flapping down. Naruto lurched forward and placed both of his hands on her shoulders, eliciting a quiet gasp from her. No way, Kyumi. I think I look pretty good right now, Naruto replied, nodding and giving her a genuine smile. I was just a little surprised, that's all. Are you serious? Naruto, really? He said again, nodding. I think I just went up 2 levels in badassery. Kyumi chuckled quietly as a result of his words. I think we look like a pair now, said Naruto, raising his hand to pat Kyumi on the head. Kyumi smiled at him, her cheeks blushing slightly, before leaning in quickly and kissing Naruto on the cheek. Much to Naruto's embarrassment, pulling back, her smile grew even wider as she noticed a blush on Naruto's face. You're too damn nice sometimes, Kyumi observed as she looked at him. Naruto opened his mouth to speak, then closed it, then opened it again and closed it again, looking like a fish out of water. Kyumi's smile turned into a smirk. At least she had one way of retaliating against him for constantly perplexing her. How about we take a shower? Naruto, he nodded slowly, too stunned to respond with words. And it didn't help that he had just realized he was holding onto her bare shoulders, as she was completely naked, with all of her clothing tossed into a nearby sink, exposing her entire body for his eyes to take in. He forced his gaze to return to Kyumi's. It took a lot of determination, but he succeeded. Why are you so embarrassed? Naruto, you've seen me naked many times before, Kyumi asked, biting her lower lip. Why yeah, Naruto stammered back. But I wasn't that close to you back then. Phew. Yes. Naruto, I never thought I'd get that close to you, but here we are, somehow. You've wormed your way into my heart, Kyumi stated warmly with a nod, her tails also nodding in agreement behind her. She then leaned in again, this time kissing him on the lips. Please accept responsibility. A week had already passed, and his new appearance had yet to be discovered. It wasn't all that difficult. When he left the apartment, all he had to do was revert to his original appearance. Then he'd just have to avoid every single Hyuga in the village, which was simple because most Hyuga stayed within their own district. The only thing he had to be concerned about was accidentally walking in front of Neji or Hinata while they were using their Byakugan. Where had Hinata gone these days? The last he heard, she had decided to hide out with Tenten after an argument with her father. Is it something about the two of them fleeing together? What was the point of that in the first place? Oh well, back to the main point. While he dealt with the actual concealment of his new features, Tsunade made certain to dispel any rumors about him. Honestly, she did better damage control than old man Sarutobi, which he appreciated. It also didn't hurt that Kyumi had made him a cowl out of her chakra. It was the same color as his jacket. He thought he looked great in it. When he decided to strike a bunch of poses in front of his mirror, Kyumi laughed at him. She had teased him at first, and then she found herself doing the same thing to him. That's when he realized she was insanely flexible and could pull off far more badass poses than he could. He huffed and puffed his cheeks. He was still a little envious. He, too, desired to strike badass poses. Kyumi tried to reassure him that his poses were also badass. But he knew she was just making him feel better. It certainly made him feel better, overall. His life felt like it came straight out of a fluffy romance manga. He hoped it would stay that way. Naruto's thoughts were abruptly interrupted when he felt a dainty finger poke his cheek, prompting him to turn his head and look at his companion. What are you thinking about?" "Naruto," Kyumi asked, pointing her chopsticks at him. They were eating at a teppanyaki stall at the time. Kyumi had ordered sea urchin crescents, while he had ordered grilled scallops on rice. It was clear who was the spoiled brat in the relationship based on how much more expensive the dish Kyumi ordered was. While scallops could be harvested near the coast, sea urchins lived in much colder waters and had to be sourced from places like Kiri, making transportation to Konoha even more expensive. At least, that's what the chef had told him when he inquired as to why sea urchins were so expensive. To be honest, he wished food was simpler and less expensive. He, on the other hand, was unconcerned. He was content as long as Kyumi was content. Most of the time, at least, I was just thinking about some of the recent events. Naruto shrugged before returning his attention to his food. "Oh, what sort of stuff?" "Just about how I've been getting used to having fox ears." Naruto shrugged again. "Anything else?" Kyumi asked, tilting her head to the side. "Do you want the honest truth?" he asked, returning her gaze. "Yes, indeed." "Duh," Kyumi replied as she leaned in close. "Is it something important?" He shook his head and said, "Not at all. I was just thinking about how we used to do all those weird poses in the mirror at my apartment." Kyumi chuckled quietly as her cheeks warmed slightly. Hehe, I sort of forgot about that. That pose you did with both your hands up in victory signs was really cute." Naruto remarked with a nod. "Most adorable thing I've ever seen you do." Her blush reached her ears. Well, I guess I could do it for you every now and then because you enjoy it so much." Naruto quietly swallowed. She was simply too precious. "Why don't you start by eating? That would be strange if you did it in public." "In my opinion," Naruto replied as he reached over and patted her on the head. "Okay," Kyumi said in response. She gently blew on a piece of crescent with her chopstick before cupping her hand underneath it to prevent spillage. Instead of eating it, she held it up to him, causing him to wrinkle his brow. I am feeding you," Kyumi stammered. "I saw it in this monkey dating magazine." "All right, if you're okay with sharing, I'll be happy to eat it," he said, looking at the sea urchin crescent in between her chopsticks and then at her. "I'm fine with sharing," Kyumi replied, her hand slightly trembling. "But only with you. You won't catch me doing anything with monkeys." "Got it." Naruto chuckled. Then he leaned forward and smiled as he ate the piece of food. "Is it good?" Kyumi asked as she drew her chopsticks back and licked them clean. "It's good," Naruto replied with a nod. "It had better be, considering how expensive it was." Kyumi chuckled as he patted his back. "To be honest, I don't understand the concept of money. All you monkeys used to do was trade and barter. That was much easier. You exchanged what you desired for items you did not require. You've got to get with the times, Kyumi." Naruto replied with a smile. "Times change." She nodded and said, "Yes, times have changed. I've seen a lot of it while I've been here. So, how do you like what you got?" Naruto asked as he spooned some rice into his mouth. "It's fine. I had no idea you could eat sea urchins. Putting a spiky ball into one's mouth must have been unpleasant," Kyumi replied as she examined a piece of sea urchin on her chopsticks. "It must have taken a brave monkey to crack one of these open and eat them." "Hey, I've been meaning to ask you something," Naruto began, prompting Kyumi to raise an eyebrow. "What did you eat back besides bones? That seems to be all you ever talk about." "Meat," Kyumi shrugged. "I mostly just ate the animals around me. I occasionally ate dried meat, but only when I came across a village." "Do you have any vegetables? Or perhaps fruits?" Naruto asked, tilting his head to the side. "Apples. I adored apples. Peaches are also delicious. Peaches are my favorite fruit, but not the soft kind, the crispy ones. I also liked strawberries," Kyumi replied, licking her lips. "As for vegetables, I don't like vegetables." "You're eating crescents. After all, that's a vegetable, isn't it?" Naruto remarked as he picked up a scallop. "Here, give it a shot. That's because it's covered in sea urchin and sauce," Kyumi retorted before leaning in close. "Ooh, thanks." Kyumi put the scallop in her mouth and ate it, making a small sound of appreciation. "Oh, that's great. That's really good," Kyumi said as she chewed. "I think I want you to order me after I finish my crescents." "Order it yourself," Naruto said, pointing to the menu. "It's right there on the menu." I can't." She squinted. "Why can't you?" Naruto asked, leaning in closer. I can't. The menu is really blurry, Kyumi replied timidly, shrinking metaphorically in her seat. I can't really read that well. Do you mean you can't see the words or you can't understand them? Naruto asked, tilting his head to the side. They're all hazy. Naruto fixed his gaze on her. I believe you require glasses. Kyumi, glasses? What exactly are glasses? Kyumi inquired. Her brow furrowed. They're like those things you put on your face. And they have these pieces of glass that improve your vision. Naruto responded, trying to explain as best he could. You monkeys invented something that improves your vision? He nodded and said, yeah, we also have sunglasses to protect your eyes from the sun. Kyumi blew a whistle that is actually quite impressive. Let's finish our meal and go find me some glasses. All right. They didn't say anything else as they quickly finished their meal. Only a few kisses here and there. Everyone in the stall with them was sick of how lovey-dovey they were by the end. And they were all relieved when they paid for their meal and left. They didn't seem to notice. It only took a little searching to locate a store that sold prescription glasses. It was in one of the more affluent areas of the merchant district. Naruto was just relieved that the owner didn't recognize him when they arrived. Perhaps it was the way Kyumi was dressed. But they were ushered in right away. Who knew Kyumi had decided to dress like a model from a fashion magazine? I also thought Kyumi looked like a princess. What with her regal posture and all, the glasses store was opulent. There were rows and rows of designs, all of which appeared to be quite expensive. It also had a backroom where people could get quick eye exams. Kyumi had looked adorable, her lower lip quivering in embarrassment as she tried to tell the eye doctor about all the characters on the opposite wall while covering one of her eyes. She turned out to be fairly nearsighted, which could explain why she always insisted on him staying within 2 meters of her. He began to wonder if she would be less possessive if she could see him from afar, or would it only make her more possessive? He had no idea. So, Kyumi, which pair do you prefer? Naruto asked as he stood behind her as she examined all of the glasses on display. I'm not sure. They all appear strange to me, Kyumi shrugged in response. Hey, do you mind if she tries on a few pairs? Naruto asked the store owner. Not at all. Go ahead, exclaimed the proprietor. Naruto nodded before turning his head to face Kyumi. Okay, then, put on your favorite pair. Okie dokie, Kyumi responded, stepping forward and taking a pair of glasses from the display. It was a pair of cat-eye spectacles. Kyumi turned her head and looked at Naruto as she put them on. Yes. No, I don't believe it works. You take a look. With them on, I look a little snooty, Naruto shrugged in response. Kyumi pouted and returned them to the display. She then chose and put on another pair of glasses. They were a pair of thick-rimmed glasses with a matte frame finish. Actually, wait, no, these are too heavy, Kyumi remarked, scrunching up her face. They're pressing down on my nose. How about you let me pick out a pair for you? Naruto asked, tilting his head to the side and smiling at her. All right, Kyumi said with a nod, returning the glasses to the display. Naruto took a step in front of Kyumi and struck a contemplative pose. On the wall, there had to be at least a dozen different styles of glasses. Some of them had the same name but looked nothing alike. He honestly wondered why there had to be so many different styles to choose from. I think I'll go with that one. Really? Which one? Yeah, I think it would look great on you. You say that when I haven't even put them on. Try them on then. Naruto smiled as he held it in front of her. All right, Kyumi replied, taking them from Naruto's hands and putting them on. They were a pair of round, dark silver wire frame glasses. She raised her eyes to him. How do they appear? Naruto, they look great on you. Kyumi, it really, how should I put it? They really make your eyes pop. Naruto was complimented with a nod. I'll get these then, since you like them so much, Kyumi said, her cheeks blushing. All right then, Naruto exclaimed as he turned his head to face the store owner. I guess we'll be buying this pair. That's fine. Allow me to take a pair from the back and insert the prescription lenses as he rushed into the back. The owner responded with a bow. Naruto returned his gaze to Kyumi and removed her glasses. I'm just checking to see how much this costs, Naruto said, looking down at the price tag. He suddenly dropped to his knees, causing Kyumi to yell. The what's matter? These glasses, they're exorbitantly priced. Let's go see them. Here, take them with you. Take them before the zeros take my soul. There can't possibly be that many That is a lot of 0 seconds. Yep, okay. I've returned with your purchase, sir. Why are you kneeling on the floor? Naruto turned to face the owner before rising and brushing the front of his pants. No reason. The owner raised an eyebrow. Okay, then, let me just ring up your glasses and you're free to go. All right, Naruto said as he walked over to the counter and took out his wallet. He was grateful right now for the time Jiraiya gave him all that money from that cone-headed mob boss. He would never have been able to afford the glasses he had chosen for Kyumi a few months ago. He could now afford it. but it didn't take away the agony of spending all that money all at once. So, do you want this wrapped up? The owner asked as he took the money. No, I think we'll just take it as is, Naruto said, shaking his head. Okay, then. Naruto took Kiyumi's hand in his and led her out of the store, over to a resting area with a bench. Naruto immediately groaned after they sat down. Eesh, must be nice being rich, Naruto remarked, throwing his head back. I swear everything in this part of Konoha is overpriced. Kiyumi patted him on the back and said, Oh, it's not so bad. At the very least, you got me something expensive. Eh, Naruto said, turning his head and making an incredulous face at Kiyumi. What? Kiyumi inquired innocently, the corner of her lip twitching slightly as she suppressed a smirk. You know I'm worth it. I'm not sure. With the money I just spent, I could buy a month's worth of food, Naruto remarked, his lips curving upward into a small smile as he leaned his face closer to her. Yeah, here's your reward, Kiyumi replied as she leaned in and gently kissed him on the cheek. Naruto laughed. Okay, then, the debt has been settled. Let's put these glasses on you now. Okie dokie, Kiyumi replied, turning her body to face him. Naruto brushed a few stray hairs to the side before slowly sliding the glasses onto Kiyumi's face. Her reaction was amusing. She had closed her eyes while putting on the glasses and was now blinking while looking through them. She raised her eyes to him. What? Huh, why you're not blurry, exclaimed Kiyumi, her eyes widening. Wow. Wow what? Why you're a lot more attractive when you're not a blob of orange. Wow, you're a lot more nearsighted than I thought. HMPH, what was I supposed to do? After a few hundred years of seeing things like this, things just become normal. Hey, oh, I didn't mean to be impolite. You had better not. She averted her gaze for a split second, her cheeks blushing as she considered something before returning her gaze to him. Many thanks for the glasses, Naruto. You're very welcome. She shook her head and then took one of his hands in hers. No, seriously, thank you for everything, Naruto. Kiyumi thanked him sincerely as she placed a small kiss on his knuckle. He smiled before reaching up and patting Kiyumi on the back of the head. Thank you very much, Kiyumi. His wallet was the most empty he'd ever seen it. It was unavoidable. He had anticipated this day, but he had not anticipated it coming so soon. He thought he had enough food for at least another week. Food for him, minus the money Kiyumi bulldozed through every day. To be honest, he spoiled her rotten. If he was going to support Kiyumi's spending habits, he needed money. It's a good thing he's a ninja. He could simply go do some D rank or even a C rank. He did not want to leave the village. However, a D rank would provide him with enough money to buy food. Naruto stood up from his seat at the table, looking over at his companion, Kiyumi, who was busy swimming around in a puddle of snack wrappers. Kiyumi, she asked, turning her head to face him. We're bankrupt, so we don't have any more money, she exclaimed as she jumped out of the pile of snack wrappers. Yes, Naruto said, nodding. Where did it all go? Kiyumi asked, scurrying up to him with a puzzled look in her eye. He looked at her with disbelief. What? He then pointed at her with his finger. Why are you pointing? Kiyumi inquired before exclaiming, me. Naruto gave a nod. But how? You literally eat money. Those glasses you're wearing were very expensive, and you always buy way too many snacks at the store, Naruto explained, crossing his arms. Fine. What do you suggest we do? Kiyumi pouted. We're going to need some money, Kiyumi, Naruto said, reaching over and grabbing his wallet from the table. And how are we supposed to go about doing that? He chuckled at her, causing her ears to flap downward and her head to tilt to the side in confusion. We live in a ninja village, Kiyumi. I'm a ninja. I can just take a mission, Naruto replied, a small smile on his face. Does that mean you're just going to leave me in your apartment while you go outside and work? Kiyumi inquired. I mean, you can come with me if you want. I'm just going on a D-rank mission, Naruto shrugged as he made a hand seal and transformed back into his old blonde self. How about your group? Sakura's busy with her own things right now. Sasuke's somewhere out there doing the dirty with Orochimaru. It's really just me and you right now. Naruto pursed his lips. I see. I will accompany you on your mission to make enough money to buy me more things, Kiyumi said as she tucked in her ears and tails. Naruto snorted as he smiled at her. You really are hopeless. Yes, but it's your fault for perpetuating my hopelessness. Kiyumi smirked as she motioned for him to crouch. Now piggyback me to wherever you need to go. I honestly don't feel like walking. All right then, Princess Kiyumi. Naruto chuckled before turning around and lowering himself. Always eager to please, Kiyumi remarked as she climbed onto his back. Honestly, it's one of the reasons I like you so much, she said as she snuggled her cheek up to the back of his jacket. Oh, Naruto asked, tilting his head to look at her from the corner of his eye. You get the picture, dummy. Yeah, well, I still want to hear you say it, Naruto said as he began walking toward the door. It's too mushy, Kyumi admitted with a slight stammer. But I'll say it when I'm ready. Well, I have until the end of time to hear you say it. Yeah, Kyumi said, smiling. Naruto lurched forward, nearly slamming his face against the doorknob as he reached for a hand to unlock his door. His legs buckled as he struggled to maintain his balance. What happened? Kyumi wondered, brushing her disheveled hair to the side and adjusting her glasses. I think all that sleeping on the couch has finally destroyed my back. Naruto grunted as he opened the door. Well, maybe you could start sleeping on the bed with me. Kyumi shrugged as she slowly lowered herself into a better position. What do you think? Naruto, I'd say that'd be pretty awesome. Naruto replied with a nod as he resumed his walk forward. I get to sleep on my bed again and I have something cute to snuggle up with. I'll do the snuggling, Kyumi assuredly. And you'll do the head pats and belly rubs. Got it. Now let's go. Naruto chuckled. Sure. Let's do it. The journey to the Hokage Tower was straightforward. He could always get a D rank from the academy. But he really wanted to see Tsunade, give her a small token of appreciation for allowing him to maintain his lifestyle with Kyumi. He needs to give Kyumi more piggyback rides. He could feel her petite breasts pressing up against his back in the position they were in. They were incredibly soft. Jiraiya would have been so proud of him for thinking that. He yelped as he burst through the door to the main office, avoiding a thick book. Damn it, Naruto. Don't scare me like that, grumbled Tsunade as she realized who it was. Sorry, Naruto apologized with a slight bow. Ugh, whatever, I couldn't care less, Tsunade groaned, resting her head in her hand. Why are you here? I require a D-rank mission. What for? Tsunade inquired, prompting Naruto to make a gesture towards Kyumi. She's bankrupted me, Tsunade. Naruto replied, getting flicked on the side of the head as soon as the words left his mouth. It's not my fault you're bad with money, retorted Kyumi, puffing out her cheeks and huffing. What happened to all the money Jiraiya gave you? Naruto, Tsunade inquired as they exchanged hands. I spent it all on glasses. Naruto explained as he slowly lifted Kyumi off his back and pointed out the new wire-frame glasses on her face. You wouldn't believe how expensive glasses are. Well, that's to be expected when you decide to buy expensive brand-name glasses. Tsunade shrugged before turning to Kyumi. Nice glasses, by the way. Thank you, Kyumi said, her face tensing slightly as she spoke to what she thought was a bimbo monkey. A female monkey, just like a baboon. A scumbag. So, you need a D rank? Tsunade asked, looking through a stack of files. Why didn't you just get one at the academy? Well, actually, I wanted to pay you a visit, Naruto replied, smiling. Oh my, you, a busy young man, paying a visit to someone like me? Tsunade asked, her voice sarcastic. I'm touched. Eesh, Naruto groaned in response. You could at least say that with some emotion. Yeah, well, I don't get paid to be emotional, Tsunade retorted with a smirk before grabbing a file and reading it. All right, I've got a mission for you. Tsunade cleared her throat, but it's a C rank, because I don't want to waste you on a D rank mission. Anko needs someone to clear a few certain animals in the Forest of Death. Something about her needing the proper mix to make the forest as deadly as it can be. Why can't Anko do it herself? Naruto exclaimed at Tsunade. Because she's lazy and has money. Tsunade replied flatly. Now haul ass and head over there. All right then. Naruto sighed before lowering himself to allow Kyumi to climb back onto his back. I'll see you later, Tsunade. See ya. It had been a long time since he had visited the Forest of Death. It was bittersweet to see the forest itself. It was where he felt a lot of bonding had occurred among his team, but it was also where Orochimaru had planted the cursed seal on Sasuke. As he approached the entrance, he had to push those memories to the back of his mind. Anko sat on a rock, a small bottle of green tea and a plate of dango beside her. Hey, Anko, Naruto said, waving. Sup, short stuff. Anko replied, waving back. So you're the one they sent over to slaughter some animals for me? Yep, Naruto replied with a nod. So I see you brought your girlfriend along, trying to show off. Anko responded, nodding before looking at Kyumi, who was still riding Naruto's back. Both Kyumi and Naruto blushed as a result of her words. No, she just wanted to tag along. And I see you've carried her here. Eesh, Naruto, I never expected you to be this submissive. Anko said, clicking her tongue. What? Exclaimed Naruto, his blush spreading to his brow. And no, she just doesn't like walking because it hurts her feet. Awa, Anko chuckled. But that eliminates the option for foot massages. Actually, it does, Kyumi admitted as she looked down at Naruto. Look, just tell me what I need to do before I die of embarrassment. Naruto begged as he slid Kiyomi off his back. All right. I'm done teasing, Anko said as she stood up, tossing an empty dango stick back onto her plate. I just need you to kill a few boars because they're really messing up the terrain and making it much harder for the other animals to thrive. What does the terrain have to do with other animals? Naruto inquired, tilting his head to the side. Well, boars kick up the ground. I have some herbivores in the forest that need to eat the grass. But the boars basically ruin it for them. The herbivores feed the bigger predators like the wolves and giant leeches and tigers and bears. Anko explained, each new animal she mentioned making Naruto blanch even more. All right, just boars, right? How many? Perhaps a dozen. Or at the very least a baker's dozen to be safe. All right, 13 boars then. Naruto said, nodding, I think I can handle that. You go do that. I say, I'll be back in a few hours. Anko simply replied as she picked up her belongings and began to leave. Don't die in there. Okay, your skeleton will devastate the ecosystem. All right, Naruto swallowed quietly. I'll do my best not to. Once Anko was out of sight, he used his transformation technique before looking over at Kiyomi, prompting her to look at him. Don't be concerned, Naruto. I won't let you die, Kiyomi assuredly stated with a nod. And if you do, I'll simply find a way to resurrect you. Gee. That's awfully reassuring, sarcastically replied Naruto, earning him a playful smack on the arm. Honestly. Naruto, Kiyomi shrugged. It's just a couple of boars I remember eating for breakfast, but only once a week. They're like a rare treat. Sounds nice. Naruto replied before beginning his walk into the forest. Since you're forcing me to walk, I demand that you give me a foot massage after this, Kiyomi said as she followed him with a nod. Oh, yeah, all right then. Naruto began before pausing. I actually have no idea how I'm going to do this. Wait a minute. What do you mean by that? Kiyomi asked, her face incredulous. Well, I didn't bring any of my weapons because I thought I'd get a D rank. Naruto shrugged. Plus, now that I'm at least 50% chakra, my chakra control is even more erratic. I can't even make a Rasengan to save my life. Yeah, that's probably what will happen. That transformation technique must be difficult as well, right? Yeah, he said, nodding. Back then, I had to use a trickle of chakra to cast it, but it's much more difficult now. I didn't realize it's been so difficult for you to do your ninja stuff now that you're becoming more and more chakra dense. Kiyomi frowned as she dipped her head. I apologize. No, it's not your fault, Naruto said as he came to a halt and turned around to face her. You did what you had to do, and I'm grateful. Hummed Kiyomi quietly in response, pouting, as they continued walking through the forest. There was a brief moment of silence. Does that mean I'll be the one to slaughter the wild boars? Kiyomi inquired, looking up at Naruto. Do you want to? He asked, looking at her. Yeah, Kiyomi replied, raising her hands and cracking her knuckles. I haven't killed anything in a long time and I'm pent up. Just don't get too messy with it, Kiyomi. I don't want to hug a bloodied person. No promises, she said, as her ears and tails poked out from their hiding places. Kiyomi then ran away, giggling, to meet her slaughtering needs. She really could act like a child at times. A heinous, bloodthirsty child. Just don't get too far away. I don't want you to become disoriented, said Naruto as she vanished from view. He was fairly certain she had heard him. Walking around, Naruto sat in a comfortable and large nook beneath a tree, estimating that it would take Kiyomi about an hour to kill 13 boars. She was fast, ruthless, and deadly, and boars were slow, equally ruthless, and less deadly. He shouldn't have to be concerned about Kiyomi at all, but he was concerned. It was sometimes difficult to remember that she was actually a terrifying demon who slaughtered thousands upon thousands of people and animals for entertainment. What if she goes too far? What if she accidentally alerts everyone to who she really was? He was now even more concerned. Suddenly, the sound of a boar's death rattle rang throughout the forest, prompting Naruto to turn his head toward the source, where it appeared Kiyomi had already begun. That didn't take long at all. Perhaps he could reduce the hour to 45 minutes. He despised being alone. He had grown accustomed to having Kiyomi with him at all times. It was extremely boring to be alone in a forest. Naruto sat there for a few more minutes, which turned into a half hour, which turned into an hour. And Naruto was growing increasingly concerned. What happened to Kiyomi? Did something happen to Kiyomi? Where was she? What was she doing right now? Was she kidnapped? There's no way she could have been kidnapped, right? Who would kidnap a tailed beast in their right mind? Maybe he should go look for her. He should go looking for her. Naruto groused as he dusted the bottom of his pants and began looking for Kiyomi. It was then that it began to rain, which came out of nowhere and went from a light shower to a heavy downpour in only a few seconds. It was not the warm rain of spring, but rather the much colder rain of fall. His clothes were soon soaked, but he continued walking. Kyumi had to be somewhere around here, right? Kyumi, yelled Naruto, his voice a little hoarse as he held both his hands out in front of his face to try to raise the volume of his voice. There was no response, unless you counted the sound of rain hitting the leaves and ground as a response. He debated whether or not to remove his cowl, which was clinging to his hair and the sides of his face uncomfortably. But he didn't want the rain to hit him in the face. The cowl remained on. Kyumi. He could feel his arms shivering slightly as the temperature dropped. And he couldn't help but think back to how cold the rain was when he was fighting Sasuke in the Valley of the End. The only difference was that he no longer had the agony of a missing lung to distract him from the chill. Still, he preferred being cold to almost dying. So it wasn't all that bad. Kyumi, he yelled again as loudly as he could. Naruto. The voice came from behind him, prompting him to turn around, just in time to see Kyumi running towards him, arms held in front of her. And before he knew it, she had him in a tight embrace. Kyumi. Naruto shivered against her. Glad you could get back to me on time. Shush, you'll get sick if you stay out in the rain any longer, Kyumi replied as she guided him beneath a tree. We should find some shelter to wait out this rain. All right, Naruto replied. There was this nook in a tree a few minutes away. Which way to go? He nodded as he pointed to where Kyumi had come from. All right, here, allow me to piggyback on you. Huh, are you concerned about having sore feet? Inquired Naruto, causing Kyumi to frown. I don't mind if my feet get sore when it's for you. Now get on my back, Kyumi said flatly, bending forward a little. All right, unless you insist. Naruto widened his eyes slightly as he climbed onto her back, then remembered that she had the strength of 1,000 monkeys in her pinky toe. Then, without warning, Kyumi began running. WOAH. She was sprinting, bursting through the air like an orange and red ball as she ran towards where he had pointed. She tightened her grip on his legs just as he was about to fall off her back, thankfully, because he nearly flew off of her when she abruptly stopped. Does this look like the nook? That was quick of him to blink. Yeah, that is, Naruto replied after a brief pause. She nodded in response before quickly scurrying beneath the cover of the tree, placing Naruto inside and using her tails to cover the entrance, shielding them from the wind. It was similar to a tail fort, except that half of it was built by a partially uprooted tree. Are you all right? Kyumi inquired, her blue-gray eyes glistening slightly in the darkness. Just a little cold, Naruto replied, pulling down his cowl to reveal his 2 fox ears. Let me help you get out of those soaked clothes. But I'd be naked. Isn't that going to make me even colder? Dummy, wetness is far worse than nakedness. All right, you know best, Naruto said as he moved closer to her. About time you acknowledged that, Kyumi remarked with a smirk as she yanked Naruto's soaked jacket and shirt off of him. It still are really cold, Naruto said, shivering slightly. Phase 2 of the plan, Kyumi explained as she forced him to lie down on his jacket. I'm going to warm you up by snuggling up against you. Oh, okay, Naruto said, shrugging. I'm not wearing anything. Oh, Alri. What? Asked Naruto as he sat up, immediately blushing after hearing what she had said. Heat doesn't transfer well through clothing, Kyumi explained as she pushed him back down. Plus, you've seen me naked plenty of times. It's not any different this time. Yeah, but you'll be right up against me. We took a bath together, Naruto. I mean, we usually have a small gap between us. Does my body not please you? Naruto. She smacked him on the chest. Huh, I mean, just shut up and do what I say, Kyumi said as she stripped off her clothes and lay beside him. Hands off my chest and my rear, and we'll be fine. Oh, okay then, he said quietly, closing his eyes. Naruto opened his eyes and wrapped a hand around Kyumi's lower back, eliciting a small little meep from her, to which she responded by placing both of her hands on his shoulders before sliding forward and wrapping them around his neck. I feel like we skipped a few steps in our relationship, Naruto remarked nervously, grateful that Kyumi couldn't see his blush in the darkness. What do you mean, Naruto? Kyumi inquired as she leaned in close to him. Much to his chagrin, when we first met, you were naked. That omitted a number of steps. Then we took a bath together. This resulted in even more skips. We then kissed. I mean, we haven't even said I love you to each other yet, Naruto explained hesitantly, pausing between every few words to try to remember everything that had happened between them. Oh, Kyumi replied, I'm not so familiar with the monkey's steps to a relationship. I just did what felt natural. So, is this to say that what we're doing now feels natural? Oh. So you're telling me, Kyumi began with a pout, pressing her breasts against his chest, that this doesn't feel natural. It does, but, don't you think we're going a little too fast? As his entire face turned red, Naruto inquired. Do you want the truth? Naruto, yeah, I don't think we're moving fast enough at times, Kiyumi admitted as she moved closer to him. He shivered not because it was cold, but because Kiyumi's breath was so warm. It's cold, Naruto. Kiyumi said huskily, won't you warm me up? Do-tailed beasts get cold. Does it make a difference? He looked her in the eyes. I suppose not. As he said this, he found himself leaning in closer to her, but she quickly pressed her lips against his. And that light, delicate touch was just enough to re-energize him. And before he knew it, he had pulled himself on top of her. Kiyumi hummed approvingly as she arched her back, pressing her chest against his, wanting to touch as much of him as she could. Her body felt so fragile against his that it felt like if he put too much pressure on her. But the eager noises she made said otherwise, despite being underneath him. Kiyumi had the most control. Every little move she made, he responded with one. He grunted as her hands found their way into his hair. The way her dainty fingers brushed against his ears, feeling absolutely amazing to him. Now he understood why she loved head pats. She abruptly pulled away, causing him to raise an eyebrow. Glasses. Oh, they continued their heated make-out session after she had safely placed her glasses off to the side, savoring every sound, taste, and smell as the two continued pressing their bodies together. Every time Kiyumi's breasts brushed up against his chest, she would moan quietly into their kiss. And every time her leg brushed up against his groin, he would groan, drowning out the rain outside. They'd forgotten it was raining in the first place before long. I love you, Kiyumi. With all my heart, Naruto said breathlessly as he drew back for air. She felt her entire body flush with joy as she heard those words from him. And even in the darkness, she could see the genuine warm smile on his face. Honestly, she was speechless for a moment. I adore you, Naruto. She cleared her throat, realizing she had stuttering. I love you with every fiber of my being, Naruto, if it was possible. She noticed his smile grow even wider. She couldn't help but return the smile. Damn, your smile could melt ice, Kiyumi remarked, drawing a chuckle from Naruto. Well, you could just shatter the ice with how hard you slap, Naruto replied, causing Kiyumi to snort. Please, I'm much stronger than that. Yeah, I just hope you don't end up slamming me with a full power slap. She grinned. No guarantees. This was a first. He'd never had a birthday where he didn't spend the entire day alone. Most of his birthdays were spent locked up inside his apartment, with nothing but the cheers of those outside to accompany him. It was awful having a birthday on a holiday. Yep, 10th of October, it's his birthday. It was also the day the nine-tailed fox attacked Konoha. It was now mostly known as the day Konoha held its nine-tailed fox festival. To be honest, he thought the concept was brilliant. Why should everyone remember it as a horrible day when many people died when they can remember it as the day many people sacrificed themselves for the betterment of the village? It was one of Hiruzen's better ideas. Speaking of Hiruzen, it was his first birthday without the old man. Well, not really. Because Hiruzen couldn't come every year, he was still expected to give the festival speech, but every other year or so, he would pay him a visit before heading over to the festival. He always brought a slice of mango cake with him. Naruto liked it because it was orange. Mangoes also tasted good, though that was not what he meant by this being a first. No, not at all. See, the Nine-Tailed Fox Festival was just like any other festival in Konoha. It had food, games, reenactments of what happened during the Nine-Tailed Fox attack, and fireworks at the end. Everything sounded like a lot of fun. He did not, however, attend. While he was mostly tolerated by Konoha, there were a few people who refused to look past his reputation. They wouldn't have it, having the demon who attacked them years ago there to celebrate, even if it was just the boy who contained the demon who wanted to go, not the demon itself. But now things were different. Not only did he no longer appear recognizable, but he also had a reason to go this year. A cute, adorable reason. Come on, I want to go to the festival. He rolled his eyes as he slid his arms into the sleeve of his yukata. A festival commemorating Kiyumi's defeat was the last thing he expected her to be excited about. You know they're celebrating the day we beat you, right? Naruto asked, grinning. Yeah, but it's still all about me, Kiyumi retorted, patting down her dark blue yukata. You're fine with everything as long as it's about you, Naruto snorted in response. That's not true, grumbled Kiyumi. Be honest, you enjoy being the center of attention, Naruto replied with a chuckle. Only the center of your attention, darling, Kiyumi replied, the corner of her lips curving upward into a smile as her words caused Naruto's cheeks to heat up. He looked at her for a moment, his eyes wide with surprise, before they warmed up and he smiled. That was actually quite smooth, Kiyumi. See, I can be smooth, too. She puffed out her chest proudly. Naruto burst out laughing at her words, much to her delight and embarrassment. To be honest, the boy's laugh made her feel as if her world was much more vibrant and colorful, if only for a short time, just enough for her. All right, finish putting on that yukata and then we can go, Naruto said as he finished tying the knot around his waist. I don't know how to put it on. The back knot is confusing, Kiyumi grumbled, but it's simple, Naruto said, turning around to show Kiyumi how he tied his yukata. Oh, all right, Naruto responded before making a twirling motion with his finger. Turn around for me. Okie dokie, Kiyumi said, turning around and waggling her tail. Naruto clicked his tongue. What? Kiyumi inquired innocently, turning her head and slyly placing a finger on her lip, as Naruto placed his hand on her back, right on her right cheek. Her playful demeanor quickly changed to one of embarrassment. She blushed at first, but when Naruto squeezed her, she squeaked, and Naruto, stammered Kiyumi, her eyes almost pleading, darling. She almost said more, but instead bit her lower lip. She would die of embarrassment if those words escaped her lips. Let's save it for after the festival. Okay, I want to get there early before all the food gets eaten, suggested Naruto, his voice surprisingly smooth and calm despite the situation. If she only knew how embarrassed, proud, and happy he was on the inside. All right then. After a few more moments of fidgeting to get Kiyumi's yukata on properly, the two set off to the festival. They looked like a couple, wearing matching dark blue yukatas and having the same red hair and eye color. They looked exactly like siblings. Fortunately, that was not the case. Naruto had worn nothing but his fox ears and whiskers. He didn't want anyone to ruin their night, despite the fact that it was early in the evening. The festival grounds were packed. Children were running around with their parents, enjoying the good vibes. Off-duty shinobi were also present, looking much more relaxed now that they were out of their uniforms and dressed in festive yukatas. A and BU stood on the rooftops, just visible enough to deter troublemakers, but not so much that they distracted those just trying to have fun. Whoa, Kiyumi exclaimed quietly, her eyes widening as she took everything in. First time at a festival. Naruto chuckled as he placed a hand on Kiyumi's shoulder. Yes, I never imagined it would be so. So, she nodded. Magical. Kiyumi looked up at him, puzzled. I wouldn't say magical, Kiyumi said, looking around her. It just surprised me. How so? Naruto asked, tilting his head slightly to the side. Usually, when a large number of monkeys are packed tightly together, it means they're on their way to war, and the atmosphere is often awkward, with just a slight bit of fear to accompany it. Kiyumi began as she turned her head to look up at him. But here, you have a bunch of monkeys happily celebrating together. Doesn't it give you hope? Naruto asked, taking a deep breath. It does, she nodded. All right then, let's go eat some food, said Naruto, clapping his hands. His words were met with a playful smack on the arm, prompting him to look at Kiyumi with a puzzled expression. That's my line, idiot. She smirked at him. Ha, snorted Naruto, placing a hand on his hip. Go ahead then. Kiyumi nodded before clearing her throat. All right. Then, let's go eat some food. Yeah. They then started walking towards the food stalls. Naruto couldn't help but laugh at Kiyumi's enthusiastic reaction to all the different foods that they sold. She could act like a little girl at times, especially when confronted with food. Each stall sold a different item, ranging from takoyaki to okonomiyaki, wadame to nikumen, and taiyaki to yakisoba. It was food heaven for both of them. Kiyumi because it all tasted great, and Naruto because it was all cheap. Kiyumi began looking for as many opportunities to share her food with him about halfway through their food journey, whether it's feeding him a bite of her okonomiyaki, having him eat cotton candy off her finger, or, the most embarrassing of all, having him lick a bit of takoyaki sauce off her cheek. Naruto, please share this choco banana with me. Naruto blinked at the chocolate-covered banana. You know what? I'm actually kinda full, Naruto replied, placing a hand on his stomach. Not everyone has an endless pit for a stomach. I guess I'll just eat this choco banana by myself then. Kiyumi shrugged as she bit into her chocolate-covered banana. Would you like to do something other than eat? Asked Naruto, tilting his head to the side. Like what? Kiyumi asked, her brow furrowed. Well, there are a bunch of games, Naruto shrugged, like you could try to scoop up goldfish. Hey, why would I want to scoop up goldfish when I can just eat? Kiyumi asked as she ate another piece of banana. But wouldn't it be cool to have a pet? I already have a pet, she said with a tilt of her head. Oh, Naruto replied. What pet? I mean, I have you. After that, Kiyumi couldn't keep her face straight and burst out laughing. Naruto looked at her incredulously for a moment before snorting and turning away. I kid. You're so much more to me than a pet. Kyumi reassured him as she waved her hand at him. Naruto said, unamused. Oh, come on. If we look at our relationship objectively, I am much more pet-like. When do I ever give you head pats and belly rubs? Yeah, you're right. Naruto replied, his lips slowly curved upward to form a small smile. So no games then. Not a fan of games. Unless it's those lip games we play, she said, shaking her head. Lip games? Asked Naruto, quirking his brow. Lip games, Kyumi remarked, knowingly licking her lips. So, do you want to go watch the fireworks? Naruto asked quietly. Oh, okay, Kyumi replied with a nod. I've always wanted to watch these fireworks you monkeys invented. They're actually really cool. I mean, the name fireworks is already kinda cool. But since Konoha is in the land of fire, our fireworks are even cooler, boasted Naruto proudly as he nodded his head confidently. Well, you've piqued my interest. Kyumi replied with a smirk before finishing the rest of her chocolate-covered banana with one last glorious bite. Let's go check out these fireworks then. All right then. Naruto and Kyumi arrived at the park and quickly found a comfortable spot to sit. They huddled together for warmth. Mid-fall nights in the land of fire were particularly cold. When do the fireworks start? Kyumi wondered, looking up at the night sky. They start a little before midnight. Naruto replied, looking around at everyone else who had gathered. They wait for when it's the darkest so that when they shoot the fireworks, it makes them very easy to see. I understand. Kyumi replied with a nod, before lying back on the grass and patting the spot to her side. Lie down with me. All right. Naruto replied before settling down next to her. Look at the stars. Naruto, Kyumi sighed. They're especially beautiful on a clear night like tonight. They certainly are. Naruto replied, smiling, but why do you want me to look at them? Just so you can admire them as well. Kyumi replied, reaching down and holding his hand. It's been a long time since I've been able to just lie down and look up at them. 13 years, right? Naruto asked, prompting Kyumi to nod. Yep, though it doesn't really matter. Kyumi shrugged. The stars will always be here. So it doesn't really matter whether I look up at them or not. They'll always be here for me. I think you're like a star. Naruto said as he turned his head to look at her. How so? Because you'll always be here. Naruto replied softly, causing Kyumi's cheeks to blush. Being immortal isn't all that good. It's like being the moon. You're alone. Kyumi grumbled. That's not true. Naruto said as he let go of Kyumi's hand to stroke her cheek. You've got me. She blinked briefly before her lips curved upward into a warm smile. I guess I do now. Kyumi responded as she leaned in. But I'm not a star. I'm not a fan of being with so many others. Especially when I only need one. Naruto's cheeks flushed. Need? Need. Kyumi confirmed with a nod, her smile turning into a smirk as she leaned in even closer. Boom. Crackle, crackle, crackle. Oh look, the fireworks have started. Naruto observed as he turned his head to look up, just in time to see a few more fireworks being launched into the air. Boom. Crackle, crackle, crackle. HMPH, grumbled Kyumi. What? Naruto asked, returning his gaze to her. Weren't we just about to kiss? Kyumi inquired. Her brow furrowed. Oh, quick kiss before we watch the fireworks, he asked, leaning back again. Okie dokie. Kyumi replied as she pressed forward and kissed Naruto on the lips. After that quick kiss, they both turned their heads to look up at the fireworks. It was a truly magnificent sight to behold. Vibrant colors ranging from red to blue, green to yellow, and orange to purple spread across the sky, dazzled all who saw them. Whoa, Kyumi exclaimed quietly as her eyes widened. They're so pretty. They are. Naruto agreed as he took in all the beautiful, bright flashes. As pretty as me? Kyumi asked, peering at him from the corner of her eye. He shook his head. No way. You're way prettier and cuter than fireworks. Good, Kyumi replied, her cheeks glowing with health as she smiled. With that, she returned to watching the fireworks. As did Naruto. It only lasted about 20 minutes. As most fireworks shows do, but it was a glorious 20 minutes. Kyumi couldn't believe how many fireworks were launched into the sky. When she thought it was over, another volley was launched. Each wave would come and go with varying intensity. But the final one was absolutely brilliant. Orange was her favorite color. That last wave had a lot of orange. It left her feeling fuzzy and warm. Do you want to go back home now? Naruto asked after a few moments of silence, prompting her to look at him. Yes, Kyumi replied with a nod. Piggyback me back to your apartment. Naruto chuckled. As you wish, Kyumi. A few minutes later, the two had arrived in front of Naruto's apartment, leaping to his floor. Naruto raised an eyebrow as he noticed a small, white parcel in front of his door, containing what appeared to be a large bottle of sake, exclaimed Kyumi, licking her lips as she saw the bottle. I wonder who sent this. Naruto said to no one in particular before bending down to pick up the parcel while Kyumi reached over to grab the bottle of sake, opening the door to his apartment. Naruto placed the parcel on his table before allowing Kyumi to slide off his back and onto a chair, sitting in his own seat. He looked up just in time to see Kyumi untuck her ears and tails, prompting him to cancel his transformation technique. He then examined the parcel. Kyumi's back up. Don't look at me. I have no idea what's in it. Kyumi shrugged. This is the first time I've ever gotten something for my birthday that wasn't from the old man, Naruto remarked as he sat down and began opening the package. It was a cake, a mango cake, a simple but vibrantly orange mango cake that serves two. There was also a small card. Who in the world sent him this? Read the card, Kyumi advised as she slid it towards him. Okay, Naruto said as he picked it up and opened it. Read it aloud. I want to hear it, Kyumi said, prompting Naruto to nod. Dear Naruto, we know that this is your first birthday without Hiruzen. While you know that he greatly cared for you, his care for you extended beyond just his visits. It was not uncommon for him to praise you outside of his time with you, since he is no longer here to carry on giving you gifts for your birthday. We have seen to it that the tradition is continued, Naruto began, his brow tensing slightly as he continued to read. I hope it makes you feel better to know that you are not alone in your grief. Jiraiya and I are also mourning Hiruzen's passing. Cheer up, though, it is your birthday. Enjoy the mango cake. Happy birthday, Naruto continued before staring at the card for a few more seconds. From Tsunade and Jiraiya. P.S. Make sure to share the sake with the nine-tailed fox. Consider it a gift of friendship. Naruto finished before putting the card down and looking at Kyumi. I guess they're not so bad after all, Kyumi remarked with a snort. I wouldn't say Tsunade is that bad, but Jiraiya is. How about him? Nothing, he said, shaking his head. There was a second P.S. Jiraiya, a list of things to try in bed with Kyumi, as well as some advice on how to keep Kyumi from becoming putty in his hands. Jiraiya's words, not his. It took a lot of willpower for him to keep his eye from twitching when he read that. Nothing, Kyumi inquired suspiciously before shrugging. Whatever, I don't really care what that perverted ape anyways. Do you like cake, Kyumi? Asked Naruto as he stood up and went over to his kitchen to get 2 plates and some utensils. I don't know, Kyumi replied as she leaned forward and sniffed the cake. But it smells good. To be honest, Kyumi admitted with a smirk. I'm more interested in the sake. I really like mango cake, Naruto said as he walked back to the table. It's my favorite color. Me, too. Didn't you say your favorite color was blue? Quipped Naruto. That was a lie, Kyumi admitted with a shrug. Back then, I didn't like the idea of sharing a favorite color with you. I didn't like the idea of sharing a common favorite with someone I saw as my enemy. How about now? Naruto asked as he began cutting into the cake. Kyumi's cheeks flushed slightly. Right now, I wouldn't mind sharing everything with you. And you're the one who said you didn't like being mushy. Naruto chuckled. Aye. Being next to you also makes me mushy, Naruto replied with a warm smile as he placed a healthy slice of cake in front of Kyumi. You're not that mushy, Kyumi observed as she picked up a fork and bit into her cake. Well, not mushy, but being with you makes me a lot happier, Naruto replied, prompting Kyumi to smile at him. This cake is really good, Kyumi said as she ate another piece. Cut yourself a slice. It makes me feel guilty enjoying something this good alone. Of course, Naruto laughed. Naruto happily shoved a big piece of it into his mouth after cutting himself a slice. It had a nostalgic taste, almost on par with ramen. Cake, like ramen, was a social food. Please assist me in opening this bottle of sake. Oh, sure, Naruto said as he reached for the bottle. Make sure not to drink too much tonight, Kyumi. I really don't want to deal with your hangover tomorrow, he said to Kyumi. I'm in need of some liquid courage tonight, Kyumi said vaguely, shrugging. Why is that? Grumbled Naruto as he removed the cork from the sake bottle. Didn't you say we'd be doing something after the festival? Kyumi asked as she leaned forward and took the bottle of sake from Naruto's grasp. Oh, he blinked at her. Oh? Naruto blushed. Yeah, Kyumi agreed as she blushed, her cheeks turning a much darker shade than Naruto's. What's the big deal? We just finished eating and then, if that's what you want, Kyumi shrugged. I think we should shower first, Naruto suggested, prompting Kyumi to nod cautiously. Why yeah, I'm a little sweaty from all that walking around, Kyumi replied as she sipped from the bottle to calm her nerves. Me too, Naruto responded slowly as he finished his cake. What if we end up doing it in the shower? Kyumi stutteringly asked after a brief silence, causing Naruto's cheeks to flush red once more. I mean, we've seen each other naked a bunch of times before. Naruto shrugged awkwardly. I think we can hold back until we get to the bed. P+. I think we could warm up a little, Kyumi suggested, and Naruto nodded. Yeah, sounds like a good idea, Naruto said quietly. Kyumi leaned forward on the table, taking another big sip from her bottle of sake, and planted a quick kiss on Naruto's cheek before heading to the bathroom. Would you mind putting the dishes in the sink before you join me? All right. He returned his gaze to the card as he gathered all the dishes and made his way to the sink. Looking around his apartment, he quickly threw the dishes in the sink and ran to the card. If there was one thing Naruto actually trusted Jiraiya for, it was sexual advice. No man can be that perverted without having been successful at least once. Right. After a few seconds of glossing over it, he ripped it up and threw it in the trash before heading to his bathroom to join Kyumi. He discovered her quietly humming a tune to herself as she scrubbed her chest with a soaped-up bath sponge. She gave him a small wave as she looked at him with a cautious smile. He returned her smile before stripping naked and joining her. What took you so long? Kyumi asked as she parted her wet hair to the side, exposing her brow. Just stuff. Naruto shrugged, causing Kyumi to raise an eyebrow. What is it? He gave a nod. Well, whatever then. I won't pry, Kyumi snorted, then chuckled. Thank you, Naruto replied with a smile before lowering his head to plant a quick kiss on Kyumi's brow. Kyumi snickered, her face scrunching up adorably in response to the chaste kiss. She reacted to the quick kiss by going on her tippy toes in order to land a quick smooch on his lips. I love it when you have to stand on your toes to kiss me, Naruto said, his lips curving upward into a grin. I love it too, Kyumi admitted, blushing. I feel oddly precious whenever I go on my tippy toes. I think it's because you like being tiny. Because I always call you cute and adorable, Naruto replied as he took the sponge from Kyumi's grasp and began soaping himself up. That, too, I love it when you call me cute. It makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside, Kyumi responded with a nod. Which makes you happier? When we kiss or when I praise you? I don't think that's fair, Kyumi replied, the corner of her lips curving upward into a smirk. Especially since there's a third candidate I have yet to test. What third candidate? Naruto asked, tilting his head to the side. His red hair flopped over. Isn't it self-evident? No, not really, he said, shaking his head. Kyumi was flushed. What? Sex? Kyumi muttered quietly, her blush spreading to her ears as she spoke. Naruto looked at her for a split second before realizing what she had said. His eyes widened and his cheeks flushed immediately after that. Warm me up a little, darling, Kyumi said slowly, immediately biting her lower lip. All right then, Naruto said, stuttering slightly as he leaned in. He planted a small kiss on her nose before lowering himself and diving in for another kiss, this time on her lips. Kyumi immediately responded, wrapping her arms around his neck and pressing herself against him. For some reason, the hot water made this feel much more erotic. It had to be the way it made their skin flush, or how the heat fueled them even more, or maybe it was because Naruto liked how Kyumi looked with her hair wet. Let me lift you up, Naruto said gruffly, the roughness of his voice sending shivers down Kyumi's spine. Okie dokie, Kyumi blushed. It was simple to raise her. After all, she was very light. It was difficult to find something to brace her against. Naruto turned slightly in the shower and gently pushed her up against one of the glass walls. Kyumi graciously responded by tucking her legs between his shoulder crooks. God, you're so beautiful like this, Naruto said, his syllables rolling slightly in the back of his throat as lust crept into his voice. And Naruto, Kyumi moaned softly, the way she said his name making him shudder. I can feel your hard thing against my buttocks. We should get out of the shower, Naruto suggested, or we'll be stuck here until we run out of hot water. Why yeah, Kyumi murmured, blinking a few times to clear the haze that had begun to form in her eyes. Naruto grunted as he opened the shower door, one arm around her lower back. Without further ado, Naruto began carrying Kyumi outside of his bathroom. Aren't we going to dry off? Kyumi asked timidly as she clutched Naruto. No time. My tails are going to soak your bed. We'll worry about that later, Naruto said as he stood in front of his bed. I guess we can, Kyumi replied, smiling and tightening her embrace around him slightly. Naruto took pleasure in the way Kyumi spread her body openly towards him as he gently plopped her onto the bed. For a few seconds, he took in her lovely features, her delectably petite body, the way the droplets of water glistened on her flushed skin, and those vulpine features that made her even more erotic. She was Without a doubt, the most beautiful girl he had ever seen. Since you're staring at me, I have a confession to make, Kyumi said abruptly as she took a deep breath, causing Naruto's brow to furrow. Here, look, Kyumi said, her voice a little thicker than usual as she spread her legs. Look at what you've done to me. Naruto. He stood there watching as Kyumi lowered her hand and delicately spread her tantalizingly pink slit, revealing her glistening wet folds. His pupils dilated as Kyumi gently pressed 2 fingers into herself and began gently pleasuring herself. I did this sometimes when you slept on the couch, Kyumi admitted breathlessly as she buried and unburied her fingers in her slit. Some days, you'd end up flipping my switch and I'd have to hold back in until nighttime so I could do this. But now that you've been sleeping in bed with me, I've been pent up. Kyumi bit her lower lip. Won't you help me find release? Kyumi asked, her eyes slightly glowing as she looked up at him. Naruto quietly swallowed. He couldn't think of anything to say in response to Kyumi's erotic language, the way she presented herself to him, and the stiffness he felt. His heart was pounding so hard. Was it a result of excitement or fear? Won't you come and embrace me, darling? Kyumi's lips curved upward into a smirk. Oh, okay. Naruto climbed onto the bed, taking a deep breath to calm himself. He carefully positioned himself in front of Kyumi. Kyumi's face lit up with amusement as he continued to fumble in front of her. How are you so sure of yourself? Naruto stammered as he looked at her. Liquid courage. Kyumi chuckled, gently lowering a hand and curling her soft, delicate fingers around his cock. Naruto shivered when she touched him. Her fingers were almost enough to push him over the edge. Let me guide you in, Kyumi said as she slowly positioned the head of his cock at her gleaming entrance. I'm giving myself to you, Naruto. Kyumi smiled as he drew closer and closer to her. Her words prompted him to look at her and smile back. All in at once? Naruto asked, hissing quietly as the head of his cock rubbed up against her. Slowly, Kyumi replied, licking her lips. I want to savor this. All right, Naruto said as he gently pressed himself into her, immediately gasping and wide-eyed. Ooh, moaned Kyumi, her bottom lip quivering as Naruto's cock filled her up more and more. After fully entering Kyumi, Naruto let out a satisfied gasp. Even when he wasn't moving, her walls flexed and constricted around him, almost as if they were hungry for his release. He tried to hold on by squeezing one of his eyes shut. See, can I start moving now? Why, yes, please. All right then, grunted Naruto, biting his bottom lip and slowly moving his hips, even at his slow pace. He was overcome by the sweet sensations of Kyumi's body. He needed something to cling to. Bending slightly, Naruto reached forward and cupped Kyumi's petite breasts with his hands, to which she moaned quietly, her back arching ever so slightly as she unconsciously pressed herself against him. Her breasts were exactly his type, firm and perky, and just the right size for his hands. They were both so soft that it was impossible not to want to squeeze them. Her nipples were adorable, just like her, just a tad puffy and delicately pink. It feels really good, Kyumi exclaimed breathlessly as she looked up at him with glistening bedroom eyes. Does it feel good for you too? Darling, why yeah. Naruto replied, dipping his head toward her chest. Here, Naruto did not respond. Instead, he arched his back and took one of her nipples into his mouth. They smelled sweet, like the soap she had used to wash herself earlier. Peering at Kyumi through the tops of his eyes, he observed her reactions to whatever he did. He suckled softly, eliciting a mew from her. He then gently swirled his tongue around her nipple, turning her quiet mews into a moan. He could hold on long enough to satisfy Kyumi if he focused on her pleasure. Never knew why I was so sensitive there, exclaimed Kyumi, placing one arm on his strong shoulder and the other on the top of his head. Hummed Naruto in response, his hip movements quickening slightly now that Kyumi's walls had stretched to accommodate his length. Suddenly, Kyumi lifted her head from her chest, eliciting a small sigh of confusion from him and causing him to raise an eyebrow. His confusion vanished as Kyumi drew him in for a kiss, wrapping her legs and tails around his lower back in the process. He used his hands to move away from her chest and onto her hips as leverage, allowing him to thrust more easily into her. Naruto was quickly overwhelmed by the sensation of her folds wrapping themselves around his length, to the softness of her calves pressing up against his back. I am going to see come, Naruto said breathlessly, his face scrunching up as he clung on by a thread. Just a little more, exclaimed Kyumi as she cupped both of Naruto's cheeks in her hands and pulled him in for one last kiss. Naruto let out a loud, muffled groan as he approached Kyumi. His hips twitched erratically as Kyumi milked him for all he was worth. The only sign Kyumi had noticed was a quiet moan that escaped her as they parted briefly for a quick breath of air. Instead of stopping herself, Kiyumi continued to grind herself up against Naruto, using her legs as leverage until she finally arched her back in orgasm. Kiyumi's muscles relaxed almost immediately, and her legs dangled limply by Naruto's sides. Naruto did the same, slumping over on his side of the bed. They lay there for a few seconds, both too out of breath to say anything. Instead, they rolled over to their sides and stared at each other. Naruto's lips curved upward into a smile, which Kiyumi returned. Suddenly, Kiyumi burst out laughing, prompting Naruto to join in. Their laughter was hoarse and dry, but it was warm and satisfied. Kiyumi spoke first. "Thank you. For what?" asked Naruto, his brow furrowed. "For making my first time so pleasant," Kiyumi replied, her tail swishing behind her in agreement. "I guess I should thank you for that as well," Naruto said proudly, causing Kiyumi to laugh again. "To think I've been missing something like that for 1,000 years," remarked Kiyumi as she rolled onto her back and turned her head to face Naruto. "You should walk around with more pride, Naruto. You're the only person who has ever seen this side of me. I'm already pretty proud to know you," Naruto responded with a nod. "Heh," Kiyumi snorted, smiling. "I must look like a fool, huh? Blowing myself up to this size, putting myself on a pedestal so that everyone else is beneath me, just for you to walk in and topple all of that. A fool." "Perhaps," Naruto responded, reaching a hand over to caress her cheek, "but in some ways, I'm okay with that. If you weren't so hopeless, I wouldn't be here with you." "You mean that?" Naruto, Kiyumi asked, her lips pursed delicately. "Of course," Kiyumi's smile returned. "I really love you, Naruto." Naruto smiled before scooting over to pull Kiyumi into a warm embrace. "I love you too, Kiyumi."
I will continue this story in another video, so please tell me in the comments if you liked it or not. Till then, we weep offline.